After the first China-Afghanistan-Pakistan foreign ministers' dialogue in Beijing on Tuesday, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi announced that Pakistan and Afghanistan have agreed to improve their relations as soon as possible, and China and Pakistan also agreed to discuss with Afghanistan the extension of the China-Pakistan economic corridor to the country. Why is China expanding its diplomatic role in Afghanistan? What's the future of Pakistan-Afghanistan relations, and how will cooperation among the three countries change the nature of regional diplomacy? To discuss these issues and more, today I'm happy to be joined in the studio by He Wenping, Senior Research Fellow from the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences. We shall also speak via satellite to Shokad Paracha, host of the program Rubaru on Pakistan's AAJ TV, and Mohammad Nataki, former Afghan ambassador to Libya. That's our topic. This is Dialogue. I'm Yang Rui. But before we get started, let's take a look at this background report.
China is seeking to bring two neighbors closer. Afghan and Pakistani foreign ministers met in Beijing to overcome frictions and secure closer security cooperation. Their Chinese counterpart Wang Yi said this initiative will bring tangible results.
The three parties agreed that on the basis of 5 principles of peaceful coexistence, this dialogue will be taken as an opportunity to increase mutual trust and deepen cooperation. Under the framework of Belt and Road Initiative, 3 countries will work together to promote connectivity as well as shared prosperity and common development.
Afghanistan and Pakistan are subject to frequent terrorist attacks, and they blame each other for that violence. Their bilateral ties have also been strained by border issues, like the Durand Line. Foreign Minister Wang Yi proposed establishing such a trilateral dialogue mechanism in June this year when he visited Afghanistan and Pakistan to carry out shuttle diplomacy. As an outcome of this dialogue, the ministers agreed to promote an Afghan-led and Afghan-owned peace and reconstruction process involving the Taliban. They also pledged to cooperate in a range of fields like the economy, military, intelligence, and refugees.
We appreciate China's sincere support to Afghanistan's sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity, as well as our peace and development efforts. I would also like to express profound gratitude to China for the generous assistance to our reconstruction efforts in the past 15 years.
I would also like to commend Foreign Minister Wang Yi for his proposal and efforts to establish Pakistan-China-Afghanistan Trilateral Foreign Ministers Dialogue Forum. I believe this forum will go in a long way in joint efforts for bringing lasting peace in Afghanistan and enhancing cooperation among our 3 countries.
The foreign ministers agreed to hold a second trilateral dialogue in Afghanistan in the coming year and make it an additional mechanism benefiting growth in the 3 countries.
Welcome to the dialogue, Wenping. What do you think of the background against which this trilateral dialogue took place in Beijing by the end of the year 2017?
Well, of course, obviously, this is a very good thing. At least has been taking place this year. This is a very good start because they all started from the June when our Foreign Minister Wang Yi visited to Pakistan and Afghanistan, and then trying to bring those 2 countries together. So I think the background is, of course, the Pakistan and Afghanistan, their relations is not so good at all. So they are mutually accusing each other, saying you are supporting those terrorists doing activity in my territory. So this mutually accusing each other has caused this mistrust and even go deeper and deeper. So this is certainly not good for themselves, also not good for China as well, because we are bothered with those 2 countries. Their insecurity has been, I think, has caused a very bad influence to the security in our western area as well. So this is it's not like a lose-lose. If things going worse, it's lose-lose-lose. Try lose. So that's why China also eager to do something for bringing those two together. So that's one thing. Another is the economic concern. Economic concern, we know that China-Pakistan, this corridor issue, has been regarded as a flagship project for this One Belt, One Road proceeding forward. But those projects now cost, I think there's some concern from India. India even recently saying very open way, saying they are not favor this One Belt, One Road. They are not joined by themselves, but even they are against all those projects going on between China and Pakistan. And also Afghanistan. So if the things in Afghanistan continue like in a very insecure way, that will certainly influence this flagship project itself.
Why is China trusted by our neighboring countries like Pakistan and Afghanistan?
Yes, because China enjoys this neutrality. Neutral. We are very neutral forces. You know, normally the Afghanistan, they have a very heavy those presence from the United States. That's very obvious way. United States, they even have their military presence there. And in the past several months, I think even though the President Trump had unveiled a so-called very new Afghanistan strategy, so he made that new strategy becoming a very beginning for his overhaul this global strategy. But this strategy doesn't mean that we'll bring the new peace like for Afghanistan.
Wait a minute, Wen Ping, how different is this strategy by the Trump administration from the previous off-pack strategy of the Obama administration, for which the late Special Envoy Richard Holbrooke did a lot to negotiate peace and to certainly design the military drawdown, but the outcomes have been very questionable.
Yeah, there are two fundamental differences between this new one and with the old one. The one is to add more troops there, rather than to get, to reduce. So add more. At the beginning, President Trump said we'll add like even 4,000, something like that. Actually, maybe now we all know the Pentagon now is a secret way adding more troops, not only to Afghanistan and even to the Syria frontier. So that is one change.
Perhaps the use of drones increasingly also helps a lot.
Right.
In eliminating what the United States would call terrorists in Afghanistan.
Right, that's another thing I'm going to address. So this frequently used drones itself, sometimes it's a double edges of the sword. Sometimes you can kill those targeted, you say, the criminals and terrorists. Another thing is it cause a lot of casualties of those civilians, because it's not can always targeting the right the target. And number third, I think is a positive point coming from this new strategy. So in that new strategy, President Trump had mentioned, nowadays he also favor for this opinion we have been long insisted on, that is let the Afghanistan people lead the process, and the things will be in the hand of Afghanistan people
themselves. In other words,
themselves.
it's called Afghan-led, Afghan-owned.
Oh yes, Afghan-led, Afghanistan-owned. So this approach, now he's also holding this flag higher and also saying welcome the Taliban.
And do you think the United States and China see eye to eye about this issue, encouraging Kabul in Afghanistan to assume the leadership in whatever peace negotiations?
Yeah, at least in terms of this principle itself, I think it's laid a good foundation for China, U.S. now will work together to bring the process, peaceful process forward.
And this alleged consensus between Washington and Beijing may have led to the establishment of what we call the Quadrilateral Cooperation Mechanism, right, between Afghanistan, Pakistan, China, and the United States. But I'm afraid the Taliban complains that it's been left marginalized. What do you think of the possibility of involving the moderates of the Taliban in whatever peaceful negotiations or process of reconciliation? We also have the issue of a Kabul process. What can you tell us?
Yes, when you're saying is saying and doing is another thing. So even though you are said led by the Afghanistan people, but when you are doing things like targeting military attack, those strong frequency use, so that will, on the other hand, you're driving the Taliban further away from this negotiation table. This is one, I think, shortcoming. Another shortcoming is the role played by the Pakistan. You know, in Trump's new strategy, he is openly criticized Pakistan, saying Pakistan hasn't done a very good job in whole of the process.
But our friends in Pakistan, which is said to be the all-weather friend of China for years, since the end of the Second World War, complained that Islamabad has paid a heavy political price for having to take side with the United States in fighting terrorism since 9/11. Let me cross over to our Pakistani commentator, Mr. Shokad Paracha, host of a television program in Islamabad, for his comments on the casualties and price that Pakistan has to suffer in this war of attrition against terrorism, and perhaps in dealing with the United States since September the 11th, back in the year 2001. Hello, Shokad. Tell us the latest process. I mean, tell us first of all the immediate media response to the outcomes of this trilateral dialogue in Beijing.
I think that has been very positive and very encouraging that our great friend China initiated this process, and Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi hosted Afghanistan's Foreign Minister as well as Foreign Minister of Pakistan. And the outcome is also very positive, because Pakistan is always saying that it should be an Afghan-led, Afghan-owned process that should lead to peace and reconciliation in Afghanistan. Pakistan is always pressing that military option is not the only option for solving Afghan crisis. Rather, it must be a reconciliation process coupled with restoration of peace and development. What yesterday was decided between three countries, that is China, our great friend, Pakistan and Afghanistan, is exactly what Pakistan has been advocating. And in this case, I am personally, as a journalist, as an analyst and host of a show, I'm encouraged that somehow when China sits among Afghanistan and Pakistan, the trust deficit between Afghanistan and Pakistan will also be reduced, and Pakistan and Afghanistan can be brought up to certain confidence level, whereas the two countries, I mean Afghanistan and Pakistan, can join China not only for peace and reconciliation, but also there is a dire need of development in Afghanistan. There is need of opportunities for livelihood. There is need of shelter in Afghanistan. There is need of so many development works over there. If China leads that process, followed by Pakistan, and with the consent of Afghanistan,
yes.
I think
very much so. Beijing will flex its economic muscles in building, for example, the China-Pakistan economic corridor that is to involve Afghanistan. But do you think this is how China is going to reward the newly improved mutual trust, if any, between Kabul and Islamabad? And do you think this process of rapprochement between your countries will be significantly rewarded by our economic assistance?
I cannot put in a simplistic manner, because there are also other regional and international actors very much involved in Afghanistan. For example, you are very rightly mentioning the quadrilateral process. This quadrilateral process was agreed in Islamabad in December 2015 at the Heart of Asia conference. After 1 year, this process was then, dumped, and it was only 2 months back that this quadrilateral process, comprising Pakistan, Afghanistan, China and United States, they met in Muscat, Oman. Then India is also a big factor in Afghanistan. Against Pakistan's security, development and political interests in Afghanistan, India is also working over there. That's why when China comes into the process, or for that matter, there was a Moscow initiative. You know, Pakistan, Russia and China, they also started a Moscow process. Three countries, I mean China, Pakistan and Russia, they met Then they invited Afghanistan.
Thank you so much, Sokat. I'll get back to you for
enlarged.
more of your comments. Thank you so much, Wenping. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization finished its enlargement, the latest round of enlargement in the year 2017, with India and Pakistan being the new member states. Do you think this move helps to iron out the differences between Islamabad and India on the issue of terrorism? And do you think the peace process in Afghanistan should also involve India? Of course, India is a heavyweight player geopolitically in South Asia.
Well, this enlargement of Shanghai Cooperation Organization, I think certainly will help for those intelligence information sharing between all those members, because we all know Pakistan and India, even though they have some conflicts between...
In theory, we have reasons to feel confident about the importance of the Indian factor. However, Prime Minister Modi and New Delhi have always been very skeptical about the Pakistan-China economic corridor, right?
Yeah.
They say this corridor has crossed the Kashmir, a disputed area between the two countries. Therefore, they vehemently opposes the idea of Belt and Road. What do you think of the positive dimension, if any, to involve India in the process of rapprochement between Pakistan and Afghanistan?
I don't think this enlargement of those two countries in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization will help India to change their attitude towards One Belt, One Road.
But Russia stands behind. It is Russia who allegedly brought India into the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. What do you think of the role of Moscow?
Yeah, Moscow's role is they want to trade those two in an equal way. Okay, this is also the same consideration from China, from those members, original members of this Shanghai SCO. Because if you just invite one member in, another is out, because both of them want to be the member. So normally, if you treat it in an unequal way, maybe there will cause more conflicts between those two. I think this is one of the considerations. Another consideration from, I think, Moscow, probably this intelligence issue, security issue, is not so much to do with this One Belt, One Road, or with those economic cooperation in a big size. Because even the Russia themselves now also takes a little bit of time to embrace, engage their own, like a Euro-Asia program, now integrated with our One Belt, One Road. So even their own is just in the beginning of the integration. How could you imagine they even think further to include like India in this One Belt, One Road? So to my observation, I think is mainly focused on those anti-terror, and also security concern.
You have mentioned two areas in which cooperation needs to be strengthened between the three players, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and China: economic assistance and intelligence sharing. What about sending in our Chinese PLA troops in Afghanistan, put them on the ground, fighting the radicals in the Taliban, along with NATO forces? Do you think this is a good idea?
Oh, I think this is a very bad idea. Not good idea at all. The PLA now, we just joined the multilateral, those security cooperation. That is through the UN. Through the UN, they're wearing the blue helmet to join those activities, missions. Now has been already be given the green, the lights by the UN resolution. So suppose you are mentioning the Afghanistan war. So who invite us there first? U.S. give us orders, saying now, guys, brothers, you go there to fill in those security vacuum I left for others. So we cannot do that. And then second, Afghanistan invite us to there, so couldn't be. Afghanistan, the Taliban now, one of the key reasons stop them from joining this peace process is saying their slogan is, let all the foreign troops out of our territory. So let all the foreign, the military troops out of their soil. So can you imagine now we send PLA there, and how could you bring the peace process forward?
Of course, Chinese troops, if any, would have to be called the blue helmet troops for peacemaking. Let me get back to yet another commentator in Afghanistan, Mohammad Nataki, former Afghan ambassador to Libya. Hello, Your Excellency, very big welcome. Now, my question, What do you think of the United States lurking behind this process of rapprochement between these two players, Pakistan and Afghanistan? Do you think Kabul keeps arms open for a very positive participation by the Trump administration? Or do you think any negotiation about the future of Afghanistan has to be conducted between Kabul and the Taliban?
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I thank you to invite me. But when we talk about the Afghanistan, just now we have trilateral party, trilateral foreign minister discussion and conclude, and the statement is very, very good statement. Our people welcome this, conclude this statement regarding the peace in Afghanistan, regarding the security, regarding the economic and cooperation between the three countries. That's a very good conclude. Our people of Afghanistan.
What about the United States? Your Excellency, what about the United States? That's the core point of my question.
Yes, but the United States, yes, also has an important role to the Afghanistan, as you know. After 11 September, United States and international society come to Afghanistan, ISAF and NATO. Yes, but I think United States and the other European country and NATO, I think, welcome this conclude, because all of us want to have peace and security in Afghanistan and stability in Afghanistan. As you know, 40 years conflict, 4 decades conflict in Afghanistan. Unfortunately, heavy losses and disaster for our country. For this reason, I think new statement issued by three parties, by 3 foreign ministers, I think this is very good statement. We welcome. I hope.
Thank you for your diplomatic rhetoric, Your Excellency. Let me go to our Pakistani friend, Shaukat. In what areas do you think Afghanistan can be involved in building the China-Pakistan economic corridor, which is a part of the Belt and Road Initiative?
I think so far the entire exports and imports of Afghanistan, they have been depending in a maximum manner on Pakistan. It will be a highly welcome thing for me and for Pakistanis that CPAC projects, they are extended up to Kabul and to Mazar Sharif, and then, you know, this whole Central Asian republics are connected to it. Afghanistan will have an easy access to the warm waters from Gwadar port. There is already a very good road infrastructure network connecting Pakistan and Afghanistan. Secondly, Afghanistan's development that we were earlier talking about, if some of the projects, maybe in the energy sector, maybe in the exclusive economic zones, if they are established inside Afghanistan to provide them an opportunity for livelihood or employment over there, their youth can be engaged instead of holding guns, rather instead of working in different business, industrial areas. That will also be very helpful.
Thank you so much, Shaukat.
Their institutions can...
Thank you. Wenping, security situation remains a top concern on the agenda of the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative regarding particularly the China-Pakistan economic corridor. There has been a strong voice inside China calling for very careful assessment about the security of Chinese nationals in Pakistan in the first place. And now it seems we're going to have a serious spillover of such a project into Afghanistan, where the situation is declining sharply due to the alleged insurgency by the Taliban, serious retaliations against the target killing of the drones and by the US-led NATO forces. What do you think of our concerns?
Yes, the chances and the risks are always hand in hand. So there are more chances, and then naturally there are more risks. Recently, I even heard our embassies in Pakistan give an alert, saying maybe there was some intelligence saying those terrorist group maybe will make Chinese those projects as a target. So and also another number also is very very shocking. We have so far we have 15,000 Chinese workers now working on all those projects around the China-Pakistan corridor. But meanwhile there are 10,000 Pakistan soldiers has been offered to offer those security, the protection. So even those numbers you can see almost one by one. So which means even this, Belt Road Initiative moving all the way to the Afghanistan, that will be the same risky, even high risky issue than the projects in the Pakistan. That's for sure. But another thing is we see the economic, those cooperation prospect. That is, the Pakistan now is serving as the biggest trade partner with the Afghanistan. So if we enjoy the benefited from very good infrastructure connectivity, of course that will make this trade volume even double or even triple. So that's one of the good benefit. But similar like chances, risks are hand in hand. Maybe some people are just doubt those like infrastructure connectivity maybe also will beneficial for those terrorist groups. They can easily moving around from one place to another place. So before maybe the road situation is not so easier for them to make use of, but now it's better for them use. So the key here is how to prevent those bad effects happening, and then just the maximum those very positive effects to let it take place. That's the key issue. So the key of the key is to bring the peace process forward. That is to bring the Taliban. Now you have to recognize Taliban is very important forces.
Are you suggesting clearly that the Chinese authorities refuse to label the Taliban as a terrorist organization? We would only call them a serious and political force to reckon with in the process of negotiation and rapprochement in Afghanistan?
Yes, I think this is a realistic way.
A realistic way.
Yeah, because they are there. Now they are occupied almost half of the territory of the Afghanistan, and they are also has a very big influence there. So if you are saying this is terrorist forces, and then you make yourself in a very, I think, strange position.
For years since our founding in 1949, the Chinese foreign policy has always been one about non-interference with the internal affairs of a country. Now, this time around, when we look at China's meddling, quote-unquote, China's intervention, quote-unquote, with the peace process in Afghanistan, does it mean we have violated our traditional policy of being neutral, independent, non-interference?
I don't think in that way, because nowadays first it's very difficult to define which matter, which issue is pure domestic affairs. This is number one. To my understanding, domestic affairs like those domestic election, like who is going to be the president election, if you intermeddling with that election, who we are going to support, who we are going to just against, that's the pure domestic affairs. But some conflicts now is no longer just within the boundary. It has been spilled over to other countries, surrounding neighboring countries, even caused the instability to international peace and security. So being one of the members of the UN Security Council, China now has been called upon playing the more responsible, the stakeholder in whole of the international affairs. So if we just stay aside, keep just the silence way, blind eyes to all those issues, that's not responsible. So we have to play a responsible role. And plus, I think this is a constructive engagement. It's not interfere there just for our own benefit.
A lot of the Chinese observers say we need to keep in mind lessons of the American governments in their overseas interventions, particularly military ones. It means, assuming global or regional leadership, you have to pay a price that domestic audience would have to consider very carefully. Thank you so much, all guys, for being part of this meaningful dialogue on the future of Afghanistan. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.